if you guys have read the book Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, it's kind of like a unofficial follow-up to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right? Love that book because it changed my mindset. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the first book I actually read front to back. And I got mad that I didn't read books before. I'm like, cool, books can be awesome. This is awesome. I loved it. And I went on to read Cash Flow Quadrant. And Cash Flow Quadrant really, it taught me the difference about being self-employed versus being an entrepreneur, and that how being self-employed wasn't necessarily the same, right? There's 4 quadrants, right? There is the employee, and then there's self-employed. Like if we were to say do a box like this, I'll draw it on. There's the employee, and I don't know if I'm gonna have this right, but you have the employee here, right? You got self-employed here. You got what? Investor, business owner. One of them is up here, doesn't matter. And business owner, right? And the key is you want to be on the right side of the quadrant, right? So E and S is on the left, right? Top left corner is E, bottom left corner is S, top right corner is I, bottom right corner is B. Again, could be flipped a little bit between, but the right and the left sides are the same. And I used to get really, really excited over being self-employed, right? Because when I first started off as a trader, I'm like, yeah, I'm self-employed. I'm making my own rules. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Same thing with my real estate company, which wasn't really a company at the time. I was just a real estate investor in a way. But the thing that book brought to light, and this is when I first got started. So I'm just excited not to be working a 9 to 5 or working a 7 to 12 at night, which is what I was doing basically. And I'm all excited. And it brought me back to the same thing about when I was working those long days, right? You guys know the story. I worked 3 jobs and it was cool. I was making $30,000 to $35,000 a year, straight out of college, more money than I ever seen. I had no commitments, no family. I lived with 3 roommates. Life was good. I was balling, right? And then I just got tired. It caught up to me, right? It caught up to me. I was working from basically 7 a.m. to like 11 at night. And I just got tired. I started getting beat. And I'm like, man, I'm getting old real quick. I can't do this for the rest of my life. And that's when I decided like, hey, I got to become an entrepreneur. I got to be this business owner, blah, blah, blah. So I became self-employed. I was all excited. I'm all fired up. I'm choosing my own path, guys. I'm making my own rules. I'm living my own life, right? Any of you guys ever feel like that? Or you want to feel like that? I'm doing me. What are you doing today? I don't care. I'm doing me, right? And then guess what happened? Guess what happened a few months later? I got tired again. Why? Because I was still working the same amount of hours. Now, I was still working the same amount of hours for myself, which is a big difference, but I was still working the same amount of hours. And in order to keep that up, right, I kept thinking to the future, and the end game was the same. I'm still getting old really, really, really quick working all these hours. I don't want to be 60 years old doing this. And I didn't, the Cash Flow Quadrant book is what changed my mindset on that, because it talked about really making your money work for you. Richest Man in Babylon is a good one too. But the difference between the left side and the right side, right? The left side is initially the same. Whether you're an employee or self-employed, right? You're still working a massive amount of hours to get income, right? Now, maybe someone else is giving you a check. Maybe you're giving yourself a check. But your income is basically based off of how much you work. Dollars for hours, hours for dollars, right? The right side is where your money starts to work for you, right? Because as a business owner, right? And I'm not by no means am I saying it doesn't take work. It takes a massive amount of work. I know many of you guys have started businesses. First 5 years, horrible. But you're building that investment, right? And when you're a business owner, your business should be sustainable whether you're physically there or not, right? Does a business owner have to be at the location for the business to run? No, you don't have to go in order at all. It's just left, right. Don't worry about, you don't have to go from one to the other. You can go straight from E to I, E to B, S to B, right? Just left to right. But a business owner doesn't have to be on location. A business owner can be on call. A business owner could be in the Maldives, just say, and get a phone call. Hey boss, this happened. How do we handle it? And boom, you give a quick answer. shoot, you probably have someone under you that handles that problem for you. And same thing with an investor. And trading ends up being more like an investment in a way. Because you can make money, you have to put in work, but you can make money not physically being in front of your chart, especially if you're a longer term trader or an investor. So it's the same concept, right? You do a lot of work, you research, you place the trade, and you can do whatever you want, and that trade is hopefully making money for you. Does that make sense? And same thing with, real estate or whatever type of investment you want to make. And that way you can cut down on the amount of hours that you're working, yet still create the income. And you're no longer on a hours per dollar type deal. You're kind of eliminating that time versus money myth. So that was big for me. That book kind of changed the whole way I thought it. I obviously I still had to stay on the same highway for a little bit, but I had a destination. I knew that I was eventually I had to turn right and get off at an exit when the time was right. But if I didn't know that, I just would have stayed on that same highway until I ran out of gas and burnt out. So I liked it because it gave me something to shoot for. I said, okay, well, here's what I'm doing now. I'm in the S category. I went from E to S, right? Here's what I'm doing now. How can I position myself to jump over to the right side? And that's when I started doing things like, instead of just being a real estate investor, starting a real estate business. Right? I was always kind of a swing trader. So coaching is a little bit different. Eventually, it could be a sustainable business without me. I love it, so I want to be on the front line with you guys. But it could be, tier one could run. It's set up where it could run without me physically present. It could run without Jason Graystone physically present. Now we love what we do, so we don't want it to run that way. We actually enjoy this, but it could, and eventually one day it will. I mean, eventually we're gonna get too old to do this, and maybe we bring in one of you guys, right? That's how Jason Stapleton was with me, right? He brought me in to do some of the tasks that he used to do. And that freed his time, right? Cost him money, yes, but it freed his time up to do other things. And what can you typically do when you have time to do other things? A, you could enjoy life. B, you can spend that time figuring out how to make what you're doing even more profitable. And that, for him personally, that time gave him the ability to start a podcast, right? The Jason Stapleton program or Jason Stapleton show. And that podcast allowed him to really go to the next step in his life, move out to LA, live full time off of that podcast while still owning a business, if that group would have still existed. Unfortunately, what happened, and it didn't. But so that's always the goal. You can position yourself to what you want to do next. It's all shuffling the cards around, right, until the time is right. He's not doing FX. No, not doing FX. He is officially done. Yeah, he was trying to do it for a while. I'm sure he still trades personally, but he's no longer teaching it. There's just not enough time. Yeah. Not enough time in the day. Again, there's other things he wants to do, and at some point you need to stop being a workaholic. And Jason was and still is a workaholic. But at some point you wanna reap the fruits of your labor, right? You want to enjoy it. Again, I'm not going to be right now. I love doing this. I'm not going to be running live rooms forever, guys. At some point, I'm going to be traveling the world. Right? I'm sacrificing a massive amount. Right? I have made the decision to basically sacrifice my 20s and my 30s to my business. I'm sacrificing my 20s and my 30s to my business. So I'm putting in a massive amount of work right now to build the foundation for whatever I want to do later. And it sucks, man, because I sacrifice a lot. Friends, family, health, right? A lot of stuff gets sacrificed. But I'm thinking big picture. Would I rather run myself to the ground right now while I'm still young, 20s, 30s, or would I rather be forced to do that when I'm 50s, 60s, and I don't necessarily have the energy and maybe even the passion, not the passion for trading, but the passion for just working like a maniac? Logic says do it now and enjoy life later. So this is a period of urgency. The next 15 years, next what? Well, no, 7 years. I don't know how. What I just turned 33. Next 7 years. These are still urgent times. What if you don't make it to 60? Then I don't make it to 60. I may not make it to tomorrow. That's not up to me. I may not make it to tomorrow, Davey. Yeah. So that's why I got to do as much as I can today.